Part 1, Political History of Yemen and Growing American Animosity. Introducer. Welcome to TWN News, a special report on the relationship between Yemen and Iran. Our host for this series is Varian Wrynn, an expert on Middle Eastern affairs. Varian Wrynn, thank you for having me. Yemen is a complex country with a long and troubled history. It has been a crossroads of civilizations for centuries, and its strategic location on the Arabian Peninsula has made it a target for foreign powers. In recent years, Yemen has been embroiled in a devastating civil war, and the country has become increasingly unstable. This instability has created a vacuum that has been filled by Iran, which has sought to expand its influence in Yemen. Political history. Yemen was a unified country until 1990, when it split into two separate states, North Yemen and South Yemen. The two Yemens were reunited in 1994, but the unity was short-lived. In 2014, a group of Houthi rebels, who are supported by Iran, overthrew the Yemeni government. This led to a civil war that has been raging ever since. The war has caused a humanitarian catastrophe, with millions of Yemenis displaced from their homes and facing famine. Growing American animosity. The United States has been involved in the Yemeni civil war since 2015, when it began providing support to the Saudi-led coalition that is fighting against the Houthis. The U.S. has also been accused of carrying out drone strikes in Yemen that have killed civilians. The U.S. involvement in the war has been controversial, and it has led to growing animosity between the U.S. and Yemen. In recent years, there have been a number of attacks on U.S. targets in Yemen, including the infamous USS Cole bombing of October 2000. The bombing, which killed 17 U.S. sailors and injured 37 more, was carried out by Al-Qaeda, an organization that has long received support from Iran. In this special report, we will explore the complex relationship between Yemen and Iran. We will examine the political history of Yemen, the role of Iran in the Yemeni civil war, and the implications of the attacks on Red Sea shipping for the health of the world at large. We will also delve into the history of Iran's involvement in Yemen, and how it has evolved over time. Iran has long had a strategic interest in Yemen, as it is a key player in the Red Sea, a vital artery for global trade. In recent years, Iran has stepped up its support for the Houthis, providing them with weapons, training, and financial assistance. This support has helped to prolong the Yemeni civil war, and it has also raised concerns about Yemen's ability to maintain security in the Red Sea. Tune in for Part 2, Iran Recruitment and Hegemony. Part 2, Iran's Recruitment and Hegemony. Introducer. Welcome back to TWN News, where we continue our special report on the relationship between Yemen and Iran. In Part 2, we will delve into Iran's recruitment efforts in Yemen and its aspirations for regional hegemony. Varian Wrynn, thank you for joining us. In Part 1, we examine the political history of Yemen and the growing animosity between the United States and Yemen. Today, we will focus on Iran's role in Yemen, particularly its recruitment of fighters and its ambitions for regional dominance. Iran's recruitment efforts. Iran has been actively recruiting fighters from Yemen for its proxy wars in the region, particularly in Syria. The Houthis have played a significant role in these proxy wars, and Iran has provided them with training, weapons, and financial support. Iran's recruitment efforts have been facilitated by the Houthis' control of key areas of Yemen, including the capital city of Sana'a. Image of Sana'a, Yemen. Iran's recruitment efforts have been focused on young men, particularly those who are unemployed or disillusioned with the current political situation in Yemen. Iran has offered these young men financial incentives and a sense of purpose, luring them into the conflict in Syria. The consequences of these recruitment efforts have been devastating for Yemen, as it has lost a generation of young men to the violence in Syria. Iran's hegemony aspirations. Beyond its recruitment efforts, Iran has also been seeking to expand its influence in Yemen, with the goal of establishing itself as a regional hegemon. Iran has viewed Yemen as a strategic foothold in the Arabian Peninsula, and it has sought to exploit the country's instability to advance its own interests. Iran's ambitions in Yemen have been met with resistance from the Saudi-led coalition, which views Iran as a threat to its own regional dominance. Image of Saudi-led coalition. The war in Yemen has exacerbated tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and it has raised concerns about the potential for a wider regional conflict. The war has also had a devastating impact on the Yemeni people, who are caught in the crossfire between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Implications for the world. The conflict in Yemen has far-reaching implications for the world at large. The war has caused a humanitarian catastrophe, with millions of Yemenis displaced from their homes and facing famine. The conflict has also disrupted global shipping lanes in the Red Sea, which could have a significant impact on the global economy. Image of Red Sea. The war in Yemen is a complex and multifaceted conflict, with no easy solutions. However, it is important to understand the role of Iran in the conflict, as it is a key factor that is prolonging the violence and suffering. In Part 3, we will delve into the broader geopolitical implications of the relationship between Yemen and Iran. Tune in for Part 3, Geopolitical Implications. Part 3, Geopolitical Implications. Welcome back to TWN News, for the final part of our special report on the relationship between Yemen and Iran. In Part 3, we will examine the broader geopolitical implications of this complex relationship. Varian Wrynn, thank you for joining us. In Part 2, we explored Iran's recruitment efforts and its ambitions for regional hegemony in Yemen. Today, we will delve into the wider geopolitical implications of this relationship, including the potential for a broader regional conflict and the impact on global trade and security. Broader geopolitical implications. The relationship between Yemen and Iran has significant implications for the broader Middle East and the global strategic landscape. The war in Yemen has exacerbated tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia, two major powers with competing regional interests. This rivalry has the potential to escalate into a wider conflict, with the risk of drawing in other regional powers and potentially destabilizing the entire Middle East. In addition to the risk of a wider regional conflict, the war in Yemen has also disrupted global trade and security. The Red Sea is a vital shipping route for oil and other goods from the Middle East to Europe and Asia. The conflict in Yemen has raised concerns about the safety of shipping in the Red Sea, and it has the potential to disrupt global trade and energy supplies. The United States and its allies have a vested interest in ensuring stability in the Red Sea and preventing a wider regional conflict. The U.S. has been providing support to the Saudi-led coalition in the Yemeni civil war, but has also been critical of Saudi Arabia's human rights record and the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. The U.S. is caught in a delicate balancing act, trying to maintain its strategic partnerships in the region while also addressing the humanitarian crisis and the risk of a wider conflict. Way forward. The relationship between Yemen and Iran is a complex and multifaceted issue with no easy solutions. However, it is important to understand the broader geopolitical implications of this relationship in order to develop effective strategies for addressing the conflict and promoting stability in the region. The international community must work together to find ways to bring an end to the war in Yemen and to address the humanitarian crisis, while also preventing a wider regional conflict. Tune in for Tallywaker News tomorrow for a comprehensive look at the history and current state of the Yemeni civil war.